The Soundman, our version of Gilgamesh in Georgia, a dialogue between more than a few parts as spoken by the Soundman and the Philosopher. Note on the text: the original documents were recovered from the archives. Volume 2, in 1976, they remained untranslated along with countless others until now. Sunday, June 24th, 2018. How did I come to possess this text? When did I acquire it? What is the story? Indeed, any claims to possess something of super-duper awesomeness by anyone are both truly something and also mostly always nothing. However, I digress. This is a transcript of the dialogue between the Soundman and the Philosopher. It was performed live over time at Sweetwater in Atlanta, Georgia. This is that conversation. A front-of-house dialogue speakers, the Soundman, the Philosopher setting, a hideaway room open to all, basically a quadrangle, double door at the corner, bar along the left wall, stage up front, sound booth sits against the back wall, common areas otherwise, conditions, loud enough for two things, one earplugs, two consideration before speaking. I was there, it was dark, it was cold, a few folks here and there, doorman, bartender, soundman, queen of the slide guitar, she had the stage. The Soundman standing behind me, he is the one who handed it to her. I thought that was pretty cool, so I asked him how he did it. This is what we talked about. The Soundman and the Philosopher, on the epic work of invisible hands. It begins, as all enduring things begin, in dim light and in the shared silence that precedes the first note. The room at Sweetwater is neither temple nor battlefield, but some interstice between the two. A place where sound itself is the field of engagement, and where those who tend that sound are guardians, priests, tacticians, and engineers all at once. The setting described is deceptively simple. A bar along the left wall, stage up front, a booth at the back, common space in between, doors, corners, crossings. To the casual glance, nothing of historical weight is happening here. But in the language of epics, this is the city of Uruk rebuilt in wood, neon, and soundboards. The front-of-house position is the city wall. The stage is the gate from which heroes depart and to which they return. And there in his position at the wall stands the Soundman. The Soundman is an inheritor of an ancient role, the intermediary between the raw forces of the world and those who must confront them. In another age, the work might have been the tending of fire, the watching of tides, the calculation of eclipses. In this age, it is the equalizing of frequencies, the control of volume, the preservation of balance between silence and excess. In both roles, the principle remains unseen control of unseen forces. The archive and the date, the preamble to the fragment, insists upon its own archaeological mystery. The text, we are told, was recovered from the archives, Volume 2 in 1976, untranslated until June 24, 2018. There is a deliberate refusal to answer how it came to be possessed. The ambiguity serves a purpose. It frames the text as something both genuine and suspect, both artifact and invention. This duality mirrors the very nature of live sound work. The product is ephemeral, but the craft is eternal. The note on acquisition also carries a philosophical resonance. Claims to super-duper awesomeness are both truly something and also mostly always nothing. In this paradox lies the truth about much of human achievement. That which is claimed often collapses under the weight of its own proclamation. That which is lived quietly, without advertisement, endures. The Soundman does not announce himself. He works. The dialogue as structure. The conversation between the Soundman and the Philosopher is not recorded in full within the fragment itself, but the framing gives enough to reconstruct its nature. It is performed live over time, a phrase that carries its own philosophical density. To perform live is to commit to the unrepeatable moment, to accept the risk that the thing will fail, distort, collapse. To perform over time is to admit that the conversation is not a single event but a layered accumulation, an ongoing call and response stretched across nights, sound checks, and the intervals between sets. One might imagine their dialogue as akin to the great call and response of the world's oral traditions. Gilgamesh and Enkidu trading wisdom in the shadow of the cedar forest, or the unnamed questioners of the Upanishads confronting the sage. Yet here the epic register is folded into the acoustics of an Atlanta night, in a quadrangle lit not by torches, but by LEDs. The queen of the slide guitar. The presence of the queen of the slide guitar is a crucial detail. She stands as the focal point of the evening, the figure upon whom attention is fixed, whose sound will carry the night's meaning. But her role in this fragment is not primarily as performer, it is as the one to whom the soundman hands something. This handing is not literal. No object passes between them. It is the handing over of a condition, a readiness, an alignment of the sonic field, so that her playing will arrive uncorrupted. This act is deeply collaborative yet asymmetrical. She stands in light, he stands in shadow. She is seen, he is heard only through her. Philosophically, this raises the question of authorship. If the queen's notes reach the audience unbroken, she receives the applause. Yet the path those notes travel is not hers alone. They are shaped, filtered, amplified, and protected by the soundman. In ancient storytelling, the bard sings, but the scribe ensures the story survives. The scribe's name rarely endures. Sound as element, sound is the central medium of the exchange, and it is treated here not merely as an art, but as a force. The soundman's work involves controlling air pressure variations over time, a definition that could as easily apply to wind, tide, or heartbeat. In that sense, his role is elemental stewardship. He stands between chaos and clarity, between the raw emission of the instrument and the collective ear of the room. The philosopher in such a setting does not speak to fill silence, but to draw meaning from the patterns within the noise. The soundman moves sliders, the philosopher moves thought. Both are engineers of experience. Both operate at the front lines between what is and what can be perceived. Earplugs and consideration. The conditions are stated plainly. The environment is loud enough for two things. 1, earplugs. 2, consideration before speaking. These two necessities are not merely practical but symbolic. Earplugs indicate the presence of force strong enough to damage without protection, the raw energy of the moment. Consideration before speaking implies an etiquette within danger, the recognition that words must be measured when the air itself is already dense with vibration. The coupling of these two ideas mirrors the balance required in philosophy and in sound engineering alike. Protection without engagement leads to isolation. Engagement without protection leads to harm. The wise find the midpoint, the booth as wall. The sound booth, described as sitting against the back wall, is a strategic point. In the geography of the room, it is both vantage and shelter. The soundman occupies this position as a sentinel would occupy a wall in Gilgamesh's Uruk, seeing the whole field, sensing shifts before they reach the center. In live performance, as in city defense, the watcher must read the signs, the way the crowd leans, the tone of the performer's voice, the subtle onset of feedback. The philosopher's place in this exchange is mobile, able to walk the floor, observe from the bar, or lean into the booth. The interplay between fixed position and roaming perspective is key to their dialogue. The soundman deals in constants and controls. The philosopher deals in variables and interpretations. Their meeting point is the recognition that both seek harmony, albeit through different levers. The invisible hand. One of the enduring themes in any philosophy of craft is the invisibility of the highest skill. When sound is perfect, no one notices the soundman. When thought is perfectly framed, no one remembers the philosopher's guiding questions, only the insight that resulted. The fragment captures this through omission. The dialogue is reported, but the substance is left for reconstruction. This forces the reader into the position of the audience at Sweetwater, hearing the product without seeing the labor. The invisibility of the soundman's work also speaks to the paradox of influence. Influence is most potent when it is not perceived as influence. A hand unseen can guide without resistance. A hand announced provokes defiance. The Soundman's anonymity is not a flaw, but a condition of his power. The epic parallel the framing as our version of Gilgamesh in Georgia is more than playful metaphor. Gilgamesh's story is one of mastery, friendship, and the confrontation with mortality. In this modern staging, the Soundman and the Philosopher stand as counterparts to Gilgamesh and Enkidu, one grounded in the physical mastery of the environment, the other in the verbal and conceptual mastery of meaning. Their dialogue is the place where these domains meet. In the ancient text, the hero builds walls, journeys into the wild, and returns with hard-earned understanding. In this Georgia version, the walls are acoustic. The journey is the night's performance. The understanding is that all things, songs, nights, lives, are finite, and that the beauty lies in shaping them while they last. The cold and the few. It was dark. It was cold. A few folks here and there. This sparse description captures the reality of many nights. In any art form, the myth is not always born in a full house. Sometimes the most enduring conversations happen in half-empty rooms, in the spaces where there is room to hear each other. The cold is not merely atmospheric, it is the chill of reality, the knowledge that grandeur often begins without audience or acclaim. From a philosophical standpoint, this is the crucible of authenticity. When the room is not full, there is no crowd to please, only the craft to serve. The Soundman still hands the sound to the queen of the slide guitar with the same precision. The Philosopher still listens. The myth does not wait for the room to be ready. Handing over the act of handing it to her remains central. What is handed is not physical. It is the alignment of conditions, so that what she gives will arrive unbroken. In philosophical terms, this is the preparation of the field. In any exchange, musical, intellectual, spiritual, there is a preparatory act that determines the range of possible outcomes. The Soundman's preparation is technical, the Philosopher's is conceptual. Both are forms of setting the stage. Asking how the closing movement of the fragment is an inquiry, the question of how the Soundman did it. This question is the bridge between admiration and understanding. In the ancient epics, the hero often asks the sage how a feat was accomplished, not merely to replicate it, but to comprehend the principles beneath it. The Soundman's answer, though not recorded here, would likely dwell in the space between craft and instinct, between the measurable and the felt. Philosophically, the act of asking how is as important as the answer. It signals recognition of unseen work, the willingness to name the invisible. In a culture that often overlooks the support roles, this question is itself a form of tribute. Closing reflection. The fragment, in its brevity, captures an entire cosmology of collaboration. The Soundman and the Philosopher are not rivals but complementary forces, one tending the material conditions of sound, the other tending the immaterial conditions of meaning. Their meeting at Sweetwater is not a coincidence, but an inevitability in any culture where performance exists. The technician and the thinker standing together at the edge of the audible world. The queen of the slide guitar may leave the night with applause ringing in her ears. The Soundman will leave with the satisfaction of a job invisible and flawless. The Philosopher will leave with words to turn over until dawn. In this triangulation lies the enduring truth. The epic is not in the lone hero, but in the unrecorded collaboration that makes the hero's moment possible. The recovery of this dialogue from the archives, whether the archives are literal or imagined, is itself a reminder that what is most valuable is often left dormant until some hand decides to translate it into the present. That translation, like the Soundman's mix or the Philosopher's framing, is a form of handing over. Something once buried in noise becomes clear. The Sweetwater room is long emptied now. The stage is bare, the booth is silent. But in the mind's ear the conversation continues. Two voices, one grounded in the tactile control of the world, the other roaming through its meanings, meeting always in that narrow space between cause and effect, the 40 milliseconds of prophecy before the note arrives.